Player props here on PrizePicks for Sunday, October 26th. Before I get started, you guys, take a look in the description below of the video and hop into the Discord. $9.30 per month, 31 cents per day. Currently, for first-time members of the Discord, I'm giving 20% off the first month, so literally like $6. Using promo code TUFF at the WAP.com link in the description below this video. So again, if you're a first-time member of the Discord or looking to be a first-time member, 20% off, promo code TUFF using the link in the description below. Again, super positive community. So where I post all the plays I'm making on PrizePicks. We have other cappers in there as well. Everyone just trying to help each other cash really in the Discord. Also to mention, I'm not a gambling expert. This is not financial advice. Simply just plays I'm personally looking at making. Hopefully giving you guys some insight and analysis to make your own player prop decisions here. Again, no one's pressing submit on those parlays other than yourselves. Also, before I get started as well, I want to talk about Daily Grand Fantasy, the DG Fantasy DFS Optimizer. Again, absolute elite tool, you guys. If you don't know about the DFS Optimizer, it does all the hard work for you. Basically takes the lines from all the major sports books, compares it to the lines that are on PrizePicks, and gives you a percentage odds to hit, right? Like, so the top play on the DG Fantasy DFS board right now currently is going to be Jonathan Taylor over 15.5 rush attempts, because it's listed at 16.5 on virtually every other major sports book, giving us a one rush attempt discrepancy, 54.24% odds to hit. So essentially, you'd have to do all this different work, all this type of work to get these discrepancies and get these percentages to hit. You'd have to go to FanDuel, you'd have to go to DraftKings, you'd have to go to Caesars or BetMGM, and then go back to PrizePicks to see what the line is. So again, it does all the hard work for you, whether you're on underdog, sleeper, fliff, dabble, better picks, whatever platform you're on, they have an optimizer for that. Link in the description below can get you 25% off your first month with Daily Grand and the DFS Optimizer. And they also have other tools as well, DFS Middling and Fantasy Scores, AI Slip Generator. So again, link in the description below. Highly recommend checking that out. But let's get into it. 2 player props for the Sunday NFL slate. Let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it. First play I'm looking at is going to be Jameis Winston over 15.5 fantasy score against the Baltimore Ravens. Quickly taking a look at this one. This is a home game for Cleveland, and they're 8.5-point underdogs at home. Weather should not be a factor. It's supposed to be great weather in Cleveland this weekend. But more specifically, Jameis Winston, he came into the game last week against Cincinnati. Obviously, what happened to Deshaun Watson. And then Dorian Thompson-Robinson played the majority of the game after Deshaun Watson got hurt. But Jameis Winston came into the game for one drive, scored a touchdown. He went, I believe, 5 for 11, I think. He played literally in one drive. He scored a touchdown. He drove Cleveland down the field and scored a touchdown. I think he went 5 for 11 in 68 yards and a touchdown is what I believe, 67 yards and a touchdown. He's been named the starter this week. And if you go back to 2019, now it is a while ago, but just kind of giving you the idea of Jameis Winston. 2019, when he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he had 15 plus fantasy points in every single game he played in that year. Every single game. So he's able to support a high fantasy score floor. And I just love this matchup here against Baltimore, being 8.5 underdogs at home. He's going to have to throw the ball. Even on the season, the Ravens are allowing the third most fantasy points to the quarterback position, 25.4 fantasy points per game. We look at the types of quarterbacks that have hit the over on this line. 5 different quarterbacks have had 15 plus fantasy points. Patrick Mahomes had 15.1. Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, and Joe Burrow all had 20 plus, and then Baker, Dak, and Joe Burrow all had 29 plus fantasy points. And if you kind of compare Baker, Dak Prescott, and Joe Burrow, all 3 of these guys are pocket presence quarterbacks that can, push the ball downfield with their arm. And that's exactly what Jameis Winston can do. But Jameis Winston also has that rushing upside as well, giving, with the ability, I think, to get like 20 to 30 rushing yards in a game, which does give him obviously some upside from his fantasy score lines in that regard. But even if you just look, in that one drive versus Cincinnati last week, he had 7.4 fantasy points in one drive. So given this full game matchup here, I like his odds, given, just how exploitable the Ravens defense has been, specifically their pass defense has been. Patrick Mahomes had 15.1 fantasy points, but he still threw for 291 passing yards in that game, right? Baker Mayfield 370, Dak Prescott 379, Joe Burrow 392. Pass defense has not been there, and then they're also the Ravens defense guys in this one. I know Marlon Humphrey is doubtful, and so is Nate Wiggins, questionable, limited practice. Also, TJ Tampa's out. Who else is out? Jalen Armour Davis is questionable, but Marlon Humphrey being out or doubtful really impacts the secondary that's already, essentially being exploited by quarterbacks all season long. So I like this spot for Jameis at 15.5. I think he's got the weapons, even though Mari Cooper's gone. He says Njoku, Cedric Tillman had a big game last week. Jerry Judy's still there. So side, the Ravens defense can't just hone in on stopping the pass, right? They have to hone in on Nick Chubb as well. So again, I like this spot for Jameis Winston. If you kind of look at Jerry Judy, Tillman, and Njoku, they're all at 8+ fantasy score. So I am taking the quarterback, feeding them the ball in this one at 15.5 for Jameis Winston as the first play. The second play is going to be another fantasy score line, and it is going to be, if I can just pull them up real quickly here, it's going to be Kareem Hunt over 13. I think this line is too low. For Kareem Hunt, I think this has a chance to bump to 14 in my opinion here. Taking a look at this one, the Raiders, Kareem Hunt in 3 starts. First start of the year, had 14 carries, 10.5 PPR fantasy points. Then I had 18.7 against New Orleans, and last week against San Francisco had 22.3. He had 20+ rushing attempts in back-to-back games. I really don't think they're going to stray away from that, right? They know he's a bell cow back. He's kind of built like a bell cow back. He has receiving upside, touchdown, goal line work upside, but it's just an elite matchup in a game that the Chiefs should be up, giving him significantly even more touches in the second half. But all 7 running backs that have faced the Raiders this season have cleared this line. So 7 of 7 running backs have had at least 13.5 PPR fantasy points, including Javonte Williams and McLaughlin both had 11.5 plus. Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard combined for well over close to almost 40 PPR fantasy points, but Chubbard 27.9, Dobbins 22.9, Harris 20, Kyrie Williams 19, Derrick Henry 16.6, Javonte Williams 16.1, Jerome Ford 15.5. Like, these fantasy score lines for these running backs against the Raiders is just super, super elite. They're averaging, running backs are averaging 20.6, or sorry, actually, let me filter this, to PPR, because that is the scoring on PrizePicks. Running backs PPR fantasy score game log versus the Raiders 25.8, and their running backs are averaging, I think the yards per carry is like pretty elite. 4.95 yards per carry, which is the 5th highest in the National Football League. We kind of look at his upside as well as scoring a touchdown. Currently, anytime touchdown for Kareem Hunt. Like I said, he's got a 3 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 games. Anytime touchdown for Kareem Hunt is -140 currently on DraftKings, -140 on Caesars. Again, if he can score a rushing touchdown or any sort of touchdown in this one, this is way too low in my opinion. And I think, just with the Chiefs probably being up in this one significantly at halftime, should be good for, 8 to 12 carries at least in the second half. Just giving us a ton of upside in this one. And like I said, -140 to score a touchdown. I like this spot a lot for Kareem Hunt. So again, both these plays, not really trying to overthink them. I think they're just solid floor type of plays here, fantasy score lines. On PrizePicks, again, check out all the links in the description below. Hit that subscribe button, and as always, let's cash.